From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports podcast.
The fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, Prophet of Esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the book of esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the Prophet and William as the Professor.
The Business of Esports podcast is sponsored by Esports Entertainment Group, a leading esports and online gambling company. For more information, go check them out at esportsentertainmentgroup.com. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports podcast. I am Paul Doalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, William Collis and Jimmy Barada. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome to the official podcast of esports. What we do here is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in this industry. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. Make sure you go leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate it. It helps other people to find the podcast. If you haven't already, also go check out William's book, The Book of Esports, on Amazon. Make sure you go buy it. And if you have read it, leave him a review. Let him know how much you loved it. For our regular listeners, thank you guys for tuning in every week. We really appreciate it. Jimmy, William, how you guys doing?
I mean, I'm awesome. I'm making it through the Demon Souls remake, so that's a blast. Like, it's always taking me back. It's like going through a time slip playing a remastered game, because like you remember where you were when you were playing elements of the game. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I was like eating a burrito when I beat this part. So I don't know.
But why, William, why were you not playing New World?
Well, Paul, I think the better question is tell us about New. You know what? We should save it. But New World is a big thing, apparently. So,
yeah,
very big thing.
Yeah,
if the
huge.
Prophet's talking about it, you know it's a big deal. So,
yeah,
I'm telling you, I'm calling it now. We have. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we have maybe the best guest we've ever had on this podcast, the biggest, the most famous, the most handsome for sure. But
what about my episode? Wait, what?
Let's face it, Jimmy. Come on. But I do want to say I'm calling it now. WoW's dead. New World is going to take over. I don't think Activision Blizzard stands a chance. Amazon actually has made a good game here. So we can talk about it a bit later on the podcast. We'll come back to it. It is big news.
We gotta come back to this. This is like Atreides Harkonnen level drama here. We gotta. Was that topical? Was the Dune reference topical?
That was topical. But we do have on today's podcast a very, very special guest. Like I said, the most handsome guest we've ever had, the most famous guest we've ever had. It doesn't get any better than this. We have none other than Clinton Sparks, who is the owner and chief business development officer at Xset, very well-known esports team. But Clinton is a Grammy-nominated producer, DJ, marketing executive. He's sold 75 million records, guys, 75 million. He's worked with huge brands, the biggest artists. This man is a living legend. Clinton, welcome to the podcast.
Rep the set, baby. Rep the set. You know what I was thinking as I was listening to the intro of your podcast? I'm thinking, as being a host for almost 20 years on radio shows and podcasts and whatnot, it's funny how you always have to do the intro for like the new people that join. But how much does it suck for the person that listens every time? Like, dude, I got to listen to this freaking 35-second intro again. Just get to the meat of the shit already. Right?
True. What is the solution, Clinton? I need to learn. What is the solution?
Welcome to the show. Let's go. Boom. Let's go into it. You want to know more?
If you don't know what you're listening to, too late now. You're listening to it.
Figure it out.
Listen, as you listen, you'll realize it's awesome. I can't tell you it's awesome. You got to decide for yourself. Right?
I love it. It's good. We're going to shorten that completely, guys. Next week, no one's going to hear an intro. It's just going to be let's go with audience cheering, you know?
You're just going to see the professor's face like, and then that's it. You just start.
Clinton, for the probably the two people on the planet who don't know about you, would love for you to give them a bit of your background, how you got into gaming.
We'll get them familiar.
See, Paul,
We're
this is
getting
why I keep
familiar.
saying you need the soundboard, right? Like, see how useful the soundboard is?
Right. Or a stream deck. You just pull up videos that make sense.
Yeah, that one works too.
This is true. I do have a soundboard. The problem is the only one I have for William was the sad trombone.
And it
right?
never
that was
applied, so you never got to use it. Oh.
This is true.
That should be your intro right there. At the beginning of the show, just play that sound effect.
But Clinton, for our audience, would love a bit about your background, how you got into gaming, what you're doing now, what you're excited about, the Clinton story, if you don't mind.
Oh, geez, that's a long story. I think that's partly why I wrote a book, so I wouldn't have to sit there and recite it all the time. But anyway,
there you go. Go buy How to Win Big in the Music Business.
Forward written by Damon John, available right now. And not only is it teaching you how to win big in the music business, if you're a gamer, a content creator, influencer, entrepreneur, it'll teach you the principles and values that are transferable to any industry, including your own personal relationships. So get familiar. The book is free. WinBigInMusic.com. WinBigInMusic.com. I would like for you guys to play a sound effect, but since you don't have it, we got the production on this side, right?
Clinton, we're having you back every week, right? This is how it works, right?
This is how we do it on my Twitch show every Monday night. Win Big with Clinton Sparks, twitch.tv/Clinton Sparks. So the story of Clinton Sparks, guys, it starts off like this. A broke kid, alcoholic father, single mother, sexually abused, lonely, bullied, back in Boston, broke. Was a lonely kid, had no friends, didn't know what he was going to do with his life, fell in love with music, started doing music in his bedroom before it was the cool thing to do, what everybody else was doing. In fact, everybody used to make fun of me for doing music all the time. And, I just found my way, figured out this is what I wanted to do, started making myself an artist. I was a dancer, anything to do with music, beatboxing, DJing, producing, whatever it was. I was honing my skills in my bedroom since I was 10 years old, started winning all the talent shows in Boston. Then I started producing for everybody else locally. Then I built my own syndicated radio show in 22 markets around the city. I helped Eminem launch Shade 45 because as I was launching my radio show to my mom's basement, I lied to the world in 1999 saying I had a super poppin' show on the internet because I knew that nobody in the music industry understood the internet. So I just made them feel like I was way more cracking than I was. I had everybody from Eminem to Common to Talib Kweli to Wu-Tang to Cameron. Everyone came to my mom's basement. So built relationships with everybody that still sustained to this day. So, started traveling the world, going up and down the East Coast of my mixtapes, giving them out, launched my first e-commerce website in 2004, made $5 million the first year, won every single radio mixtape award you could win in from 2000 to 2004, put out my first official album in 2005, kept going. Then I became a host on E! News in 2008 for 5 years with Ryan Seacrest. I was P. Diddy's tour DJ. I did everything from, I discovered and signed DJ Snake. Introduced him to Little Joe. He made Turn Down for What, sold millions of records. I convinced Akon and David Guetta to work together, which made Sexy Chick, which changed the whole landscape of music. I was the first guy to put EDM and hip hop together. I was the first guy to bring hip hop to Hollywood. Then I brought Hollywood and hip hop to Las Vegas. I've been basically shaping and shifting culture like my entire career. So I'm skipping a lot, but I'm just trying to get as quickly to today as possible. So how I got into gaming was, there was a website called karmaloop.com, which at one point was the world's largest streetwear and fashion website. I was doing marketing there. My buddy Greg Selko was the founder and CEO. We were going to launch this new company. We were in Hollywood, and I was the vice president of Dash Radio. Dash Radio is like Sirius XM. It's got 80 plus channels, commercial free, but it's subscription free. So you don't even have to pay for it. Download the app. You listen to radio stations commercial free. It's amazing. Go get the Dash Radio app. I got an entire radio station on there, 24/7 hip hop. Any independent unsigned artist want to get your music in rotation, getfamiliarradio.com, getfamiliarradio.com. But anyway, so as we were working on that new project, which was going to be kind of like the new version of Karma Loop, Greg called me one day and he's like, dude, as he was trying to raise money, he ran into this guy who knew who FaZe Clan was. And at the time, there were a bunch of popular kids online. They didn't have any business model. It wasn't a revenue generating company or anything of the sort. He's seen that in them, met Greg. Greg got in there. Greg was like, I need Clinton's mind here. I went there. I knew nothing about esports at this point. I went there. I go, what is this? And when I went into the office, everyone's running around like the boiler room. Like everyone's all excited, like we're starting this new company and it's going to go to the moon. And I'm like, who are these guys? So I'm sitting in there and I go, I actually invested the very first day. That's how much I believed in like this space without even knowing much about it. Right. So I went right to the bank, invested into the company that I was going to be vice president of business development from day one. So when we started there, I was at FaZe Clan and helped take them from zero to $300 million valuated company. I did everything. I did everything from help raise $40 million to bring in all the biggest musical talent from Offset to Sway Lee to Pitbull to DJ Paul, Yo Gotti, Ray J, Troy Carter, all these guys into that space to help kind of push that brand more into mainstream culture and intersect it with other things that didn't really understand what it was or was familiar with it. So I was there and did a lot of things and wasn't really feeling awesome being there. And one of the things that I wasn't feeling awesome about, which I built an entire career off of Black culture. Like I grew up in the hood. I come from, that's all I know. Like my heroes are Black, like all my friends are Black. I made Black music. So it was like, I don't have to, diversity's in my DNA, right? So like when I'm in a place that there is no diversity is when I'm uncomfortable. So I realized in this space of gaming and esports, it wasn't really kind of the world, the America that I was used to, or the world that I was used to where everybody's here. It just kind of felt very frat boyish and very white, right? Which is fine. Some things start a certain way, but then it's like, all right, it's not like nobody knows these people are dope too, right? And then when I'm bringing all my rappers in here and we want to use all my rapper friends in, and it's like, oh, let's use them to promote ourselves or to blow things up or say, look how cool we are that we're down with these people, but then don't do anything for them or to help amplify them or support their projects or do anything that helps to uplift their current objectives. That's when I would have a problem, because it's like, dude, we're all in here together now. Let's all do dope for each other. And I just didn't see it happening. So, I left in July of 2020 and started Xset, which is now the world's fastest growing esports and gaming lifestyle brand and most diverse. Over 45% of our company is non-white. We have more women in our organization than any. In fact, Erin Simon, who's one of our owners, was just named the face of Puma. So, we're making really big strides, and, we've done everything from sign, partnerships with Quality Control Music to Ozuna, who's one of the biggest Latin artists in the world, which we have a lot of plans on going after that market. To Sway Lee came over, a bunch of other people, Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys. There's a bunch of people I can't name yet, but when I do, everyone's going to say, holy shit. And when we do name all these people, it's not your typical cliche, hey, look at these guys, they're just down with us. Is a whole rollout and a bunch of plans and projects that'll be coming out with that, because I didn't just come here to fit in. I came here to change the game and disrupt and make people say like, oh shit, this is what we should be doing. We didn't even think about this. And I'm going to say, that's okay, guys. That's what I'm here for. Get familiar.
I love the story, Clinton. It's like, it's got to be one of the best stories we've ever heard on this podcast. But I'm curious, what was, if I'm to poke at a few things here where I think there may be some interesting business insight, like what was the thing that got you to invest day one in FaZe? Like what was that thing that made you decide, I'm going to go to the bank today, write a check?
A pretty incredible piece of chemistry to go from, by your own admission, not knowing much, if anything, about gaming to like,
right.
All right, here's the check, like quickly take it,
Well, so my entire life, one of my superpowers is, because of the way I grew up, we have to get into a whole psychological like unpacking to explain why I act and think and do the things that I do. I'm
trying to capture I'm trying to get a lesson out of here for our audience in terms of what patterns or what psychology you recognize that has allowed you to be successful in all of these different sort of industries, right? What was the thing that clicked in your head that said, I have to write a check today?
So the first part of that question is understanding people's needs, desires, fears, insecurities, all those things. When you understand people, everything else is easy to understand. You don't have to sit there and understand, real estate or stock or esports or music, because once you understand people, you've unlocked all those understandings. Those things are just, you can learn by a book. But like everything else to navigate and elevate is understanding people and what they need and what they need to feel. Right. So that's to answer that first part. But why I wrote a check to get into esports immediately on basically week one was because as I sat there and I realized what it was, who the audience was, an untapped audience, by the way, that coming up in the music business, whether you're in a barbershop, you're in a recording studio, everybody games. Everybody that's in the gaming space all loves the rappers or, the EDM DJs. So I'm like, holy shit. And what I've done my entire life is I put different cultures together, right? I've always been the guy that's like, hey, Fall Out Boy, let's do something with Ludacris. Or like, hey, Kanye West and Paris Hilton, why don't you guys both come to my party so I can introduce you to, right? So it's like, I've always been the one that hung out with all social groups and understood how everybody thought and would realize like, wow, these guys are the same as those guys over here. They just listen to different music and dress different, but they actually really care about the same shit. So if I'm hanging with my Dungeon and Dragon friends or I'm hanging with my football jock friends, realistically, at the end of the day, they all have the same needs and the same desires and the same, they want to be loved, they want to be heard, they want to have their opinion listened to. Everybody's the same. So you shouldn't just be like blocking each other off simply because of the music choice, because of the way that they dress or the way that they look. And I've always been someone that looked past that and went deep inside the people. So when I did that with esports and gaming, I'm like, wow, everything that I've been, I feel like what gaming and esports is what my brain has been building for, meaning it's limitless. There's no cap on what we can do in the gaming space. It's not like, okay, the most you can do here is win tournaments. You know what I mean? Or the most you can do is, have some 2v2s and get one brand to sponsor that one-off thing. You know what I mean? It's like, that would be for like the lamest thinker in the world to think is the maximum ways to make money in esports and gaming. From week one, I seen how robust this could be. I looked at it like this. I didn't look at it like this. So I seen how all these different sectors could be tied into it. I seen how these brands don't even know that this space exists right now and know the community that they're trying to go after really is diehard fans out of this kid named Tim the Tap Man. Or they don't know, I would just put it all together and I could just see it all. And I would say, without sounding pompous, that my biggest superpower is I can walk into any company, any business, any situation that's going on, spend 5 minutes listening, and I know what everybody in the room feels, what everybody wants, who's the weakest link, why there's like a bottleneck here, why that CEO sucks. That's the guy in here that's causing problems. This HR person's not a good person. These talent is not good talent. So I can do that in my sleep. So when I went there, I realized, and because of those skills is, why I left. You know what I mean? Because it was just kind of like, I see what's wrong. You know what I mean? It's not for me to tell the world what's wrong, but I know internally, this morally doesn't line up with my values. So let me go do something that's greater. And by the way, I own. So when I'm doing these amazing things, I'm going to reap the benefits, and I don't need to look for appreciation from people that are never appreciative of me or never, or don't recognize my dopeness. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, cool, I'm just going to go build my own dope shit and I'll just be like, dope. I know it's dope. You know what I mean? So I don't need anybody to tell me it's dope. I know it's dope. And guess what? I don't got to answer to nobody. And I don't got to try to convince somebody why something is dope. And I don't got to sit there for months saying, man, we should be doing this, and just keep getting resistance. You know what I mean? Everybody deals with that works at a company, right? It's not just me. You always have a company where you have the top people that don't really know what they're doing. And then you have the next group of people that are the innovators, or let's say they're the ones that are thinking, but then you got the ones under them that are the real innovators and the groundbreakers that, unless you get somebody in that middle that believes in them and has the way to translate that to the top guy, they're just frustrated all the time. And you have to wait for the top people to get the fuck out of here so that we can all change over the guards and make new rules and make shit dope, which is what's happening with today's generation. You know what I mean? I've been around long enough to know what was dope, and I'm still young enough to know what is dope. You know what I mean? And most people that were dope before or understood dope before don't get what's dope now. They don't understand the young generation. They don't understand technology. They don't understand culture, fashion, art, music, and they don't understand how to tie it together. They don't understand why. They don't understand why that kid never really hit any home runs or never had any hit records, but for some odd reason he has 5 million followers and everybody pays attention to him. They don't understand these things. They don't. They're like, that's so stupid. They don't even have talent. Well, instead of sitting there resisting it, why don't you find out the people that love him, why they love him, how they discovered him, what's interesting about him. When you do shit like that, now you're on the wave. You can ride a wave, you can create a wave, or you can be crushed by a wave. And those people that don't want to take the time to understand or look past that, they're just going to continually get crushed and be mad because they don't understand the wave that keeps crushing them. I can keep going, guys.
No, I love it. Clint, was
Yeah,
one of the
really.
things you saw, one of the opportunities you saw at FaZe was the ability to, again, mix things the way you had done, in your past, where you could bring music into esports, you could bring TV, you could bring, right, all these things you had touched, radio. Was that part of the math in your head?
That was all the math. That was like, how can I take all of my look at one of the chapters in my book, How to Win Big in the Music Business. The chapter is called Mastering Art. Art stands for automatic resourceful thinking, right? So as soon as I went into FaZe, I was mastering art. I'm thinking, who needs to know about this? Who doesn't know about this? Who can I plug into this? What can I plug this into? So that's what I was doing immediately. And I just started making calls. I called Jay-Z, called Swiss Beats, I called Snoop Dogg, I called everybody that I know in hip hop to tell them about this. And it's funny because the first year and a half, it was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm like, you don't understand. I mean, I've took hundreds of meetings. I mean, from Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan to ball players, like everybody, and they just didn't get it. Right. And I was hard selling for a good year and a half before like people really started opening their minds to it, and then even starting to get brands involved. But yeah, so that's kind of what I was excited about from day one, is like, now everything that I've done my entire career is now I can dump it all into this one new culture that can accept it all. And by my experience, resources, and understanding of how to move culture and create culture, I now know how to make a new recipe with all of these things and build something even bigger with the nucleus of gaming.
I guess I want to ask just here like a really abstract question, but I think it's important. Like it just because you seem to have a really good understanding and grasp of industries and the transitions that industries go through, like the waves that you discussed, right? Like, what is it about gaming right now, in your view, and having seen the history of what's been popular in music and what's come and gone, right? What is it about gaming today that's driving this meteoric rise the whole gaming space has? Like, what's the thing, I guess, the underlying human motivation or the underlying principle here? Because it's not just they're good games and they're fun to play. Like, there is something deeper going on here, and I'd love to hear what you think that is.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. You could write a whole book about it, right? About the psychology of why gaming and why people game and all that type of stuff. But in a nutshell, from a cultural perspective, because it's kind of like what I said. I mean, for instance, okay, what are the two biggest things basically right now in culture? Music, hip hop, and gaming, right? So when you look at youth culture, those are probably the two, and then maybe fashion is right there with those, right? So those are the three things, and then social media. But like those things are like the top of the things that are on everyone's mind. Everybody in youth culture is into music, or they're into gaming, or they're into fashion, right? So gamers love music. Most artists now love gaming. When I was coming up, every basketball player wanted to be a rapper, and every rapper wanted to be a basketball player. Right. And they're all like looking at each other, and they all want to, like, man, they all admire each other. And now that's what's happening with gaming. And like I said earlier, like, coming up, how I came up, any recording studio had gaming machines. Any barbershop had gaming machines. We were all playing Madden. We were all playing 2K. We're all from when I was a kid with Atari to Nintendo to Sega to, Sony PlayStation to Xbox. Like, it's all a part of our lives. And I've always said that, like, hip hop and gaming have always been like a booty call for each other. They just like never got into a committed relationship. You know what I mean? It's like, we know we like each other. Why don't we just like make it official? And now that both of these sectors have both kind of been skyrocketing side by side, instead of just going next to each other, why don't we just combine collectively and do this? Because we know we love each other. So that's what I've seen from the beginning. And that's why I think, from a cultural perspective, I think that's why one of the reasons why gaming has become so prominent in just straight culture. But as gaming and just take away the music aspect, why gaming is such a big deal is for multiple reasons. One is there's a lot of introverted people. There's a lot of, antisocial people. There's a lot of people that, aren't out, don't know how to go out here and run around and make friends and stuff like that. So one of the great things about it is just like what was great about social media at the beginning is it's a way to create camaraderie and unity. And just like hip hop, it's also a great way to shit talk with each other. It's also a way to poke out your chest and like kind of go at each other and roast each other while having fun and making friends. So, there's so many like benefits and great things about gaming that I've always thought. And I've always thought it brought people together. I actually even think that gaming, when I was a kid, how a father and son would bond would, you go to a baseball game or you go fishing, right? And it's like, I look at today's day, like fathers and sons, or daughters and sons, or daughters and fathers, or even mothers, right? Like, it's a great new way to build bonds with your kids, like especially like single parents. Like, say, like, your kid lives with your mom, the mother or the father. The other one can get a console or a PC, and like, that's how you're building a relationship with your kid when you're not with them. Hey, let's jump on and play and go to Warzone. You know what I mean? Or let's go on and play Madden together. Like, I don't even think parents are looking at that as a way. Still to this day, parents are looking at gaming as like a waste of time. They're like, oh, you should get out in the streets and have fun. You should go be more active. You should go do they're still not really realizing, like, no, this is a fucking career. Just like if you sent me to piano or football since I was 6. You know what I mean? But guess what? I could probably make way more money gaming than I could freaking being an archer or going to karate. You know what I mean? But like, but you want me to go there 3 times a week, but you don't want me to game. So I think that parents really need to realize that not only is this a potential career, but it's also a way to build friendships and camaraderie and understand other people and other cultures and other personalities. If you can, the only thing that's problematic is the toxicity. If we can get rid of that somehow, it would be like the perfect world to live in.
Clinton, how did music, because there's parallels. You mentioned, I had another question I was going to ask you, but then you talked about parents, getting on the gaming bandwagon. And, we've talked on the podcast about this. We've talked on the live stream about this, how gaming, there are research studies showing it's good for kids, right? It helps them socially. There's all kinds of positive benefits, yet there's still a lot of resistance to it.
Right.
You lived through a music industry and a hip hop industry where I feel like that genre was vilified, right? It was all like,
yep.
Hey, this listening to this music makes your kids violent, right? And
right.
And how did hip hop, I guess, get beyond that? And is there a lesson for the gaming industry in terms of how to move past this sort of false thinking?
Yeah, that's another deep question that could go on for an hour. So you can just go back to marketing, right? There'll be times, for instance, all you guys, both the Prophet and the Professor, along with Jimmy Barada, have all seen ads in your life. We need a middle name for Jimmy. We've all seen ads or commercials or catchphrases that annoyed the shit out of us, right? Because they just ran so many ads, or a song that plays on the radio. Like, I freaking hate this song, right? But it's the art of marketing. And then once you hear something so much, it's ingrained in your head. And despite if you hate it or love it, you know it, right? So that's kind of what happened with hip hop. It was just kept being forced and forced and forced and forced. And you became desensitized to the things you didn't like about it, and you couldn't beat it. And when so many people are championing it, you can't fight it anymore. And I think, a lot goes with gaming as well. Like, when more and more people are finding, especially a younger generation, look at this is the first generation where the fathers are listening to the same music, wearing the same clothes, streaming the same shows on Netflix, playing the same video games as their kids. Prior to me, my generation, like my parents would look at me doing hip hop and they were still part of like, that's not music. You know what I mean? Because they didn't relate to my generation. My generation invented this generation, the clothes they're wearing, the brands that they're a part of, the things that they think that they're doing that's original. Nah, B, we did that 20 years ago. You're copying us and you don't even know. You know what I mean? So like, that's why, like, I think the generation gaps are closing and a lot of things are being more acceptable, because I think my generation, and especially the generation that's going to come after me, will totally relate and understand, because they came up on the internet and they know what's cool and what's not cool, as opposed to the parents that were, when the kids were out in the street and they were doing the teenage thing, or they were hanging out with their friends, and their parents are like so old, they don't even know what the hottest new trends are, or the cool slang terms, or the hot new artists. Now, like, we know that. You know what I mean? So I can come in and say to my son, like, hey, man, did you hear this? He'd be like, oh, yeah, I ain't feeling that. You should check this out. Or like I'll come in, my son, I'm like, man, those sneakers are lit. And I'm like, damn, where'd you get those from? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't like that before, but now it is. So I think now we're all becoming one, right? And man, I can just keep going. I can see like the 7 different ways to go with this conversation right now. And I don't want to like just be all over the place, which I kind of already feel like I am. But yeah, I just think that the more it becomes dominant, the more people that talk about it, the more people that wave the flag, the more you can't fight it. And then the more you have to, like, goes back to the beginning of what I was saying, It's like either you ride the wave, you create a wave, or you get crushed by a wave.
William, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to go back to like gaming and music because it's such a fascinating intersection, such a big opportunity. And I actually want to talk about just like Riot Games and what they're doing with their own. I think they own their own like studio label now. You know, they've had a number of top of charts hits. Like, I'm curious, how do you feel about publishers being involved in the music space of games, and like particularly Riot? Like, what's your take on what they're doing? Is it good? Is it authentic? Is it a great direction more publishers should be going down? Is it a bigger opportunity than just publishers? Like, you know, can you key off that to kind of share your insights there?
100%. It's incredibly smart. It's just like, you know, anything else when you're having it's just like, oh, you guys aren't gonna let me franchise McDonald's? Cool, I'll buy the land. So it's like, you guys aren't gonna license me music? Cool, I'll get my own label, get my own artist, make my own music, license it, never use your music, and which now declines your promo of my incredibly famous games. You don't want to play ball with me? I'm just gonna go make my own hits, put them in my own game, sell my own game, make all the money, beat it. So I think it's super smart. And I think the more people that, you know, make things more internal, where everything's inside and you run everything, like even Twitch, I know, you know, is trying to have their own music catalog and library with soundtrack so that they can stop getting, you know, takedown letters and people stop getting in trouble for that. Like, everyone's fighting companies to get licensing rights, right? And then, you know, the publishers, they want more money, and then the margins are getting smaller, and then these guys got to pay a shit ton of money, and it's just like, it's not even worth it. Like, I got to pay you guys $17 billion to use all your songs, and I'm not really monetizing off your songs, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, the smart play would be for some of these people to start signing artists and making stars themselves instead of watching stars happen and then begging to use those stars' music. Build your own stars. Because guess what? If I'm Riot, you know what I'm doing? Finding the top hottest new 10 rappers on SoundCloud, and I'm signing them, and I'm putting their music into my games. And then guess what? Now I'm going to the Billboard charts, and now I'm on Spotify, and now I'm everywhere. So now what are you guys going to do? Now you guys, guess what? Now you labels are coming to me saying, hey, man, what about your artist? Can you do a collaboration with my artist? I don't know. How many things are you going to license to me? You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the name of the game.
Sounds like a very Clint Sparks way to go about it. I appreciate it. Also,
I mean, if
sounds...
you're not going to play ball, then I'm just going to build my own stadium and start my own game that's going to be bigger than yours. And then you're just going to be like, shit, man, I should have just played ball with him. But now it's going to be on my terms. You were bullying me earlier. Now I'm just going to be the dominant force. And guess what? I'm not even going to bully you. I'm just going to make it fair.
Do you think the music industry today sees it that way? In other words, is the music industry scared of Riot Games and businesses like Riot Games doing what you're describing, or do you think they still have their head in the sand here?
A little bit of both. I don't think they're scared. I don't think they see a threat. I think that it's more they're not wise enough to realize the power of a company like that and why it would behoove them to figure out how to create a sub-label together with them. Or, you know, there's so many different ways that you can skin the cat, right? But the other problem is that as much as we all know how big gaming and esports is and how much money it makes and how large the community is, most people don't. You know what I mean? So that's why, you know, somebody can do something that could be like, you know, a federal crime, and like mainstream media doesn't really pick it up. And the reason why is because they don't really care about esports at this point enough to really look into shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's still kind of in that, as big as it is, it's still almost like its own subculture that mainstream doesn't fully understand for the most part. Most of it doesn't. Of course, you got some people that do get it, but for the most part, you guys know and even if they did understand, here's what it really is. On the surface, they're like, man, gaming's got a lot of audiences, a lot of big things going on. We need to get involved in that. Let's throw a big check at this company or this activation and hopefully like tie our brand to it. And that's like a typical brand would do that in the most like lamest way of like, let's use it as a marketing tool to promote, you know, our new product. Let's sponsor a tournament or a player or a team, but they're not really sitting there thinking about how do we make this multi-layered? How do we really maximize this relationship? And how do we do things innovative? And that's why even like you come to somebody like me at Xset, I'm going to come on and be almost an extension of your marketing staff and show you what you can do and how you can do it and how to maximize, you know, the things that we're going to do together. And I don't think most Most companies are pretty like cut and dry. Give us a check, we do this video for you. Give us a check, we promote you online. Give us a check, you get signage on our tournament. It's just very basic transactional kind of things going on right now.
Clinton, this is a question I ask just about every guest, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. And you've alluded to it a few times, which is, how big do you think is the gap between, total knowledge of gaming and esports and all the stakeholders that you talk to on a regular basis? In other words, at what point in the future, or is it today, is it tomorrow, is it 5 years from now, where every time you pick up the phone and talk to someone outside of the gaming industry about gaming, that they know what's going on, they know what you're talking about? Like, how far away is that in your mind?
Well, I forgot my crystal ball, but I would say we're getting there for sure. I mean, every time, I'm having conversations all the time, right? Jimmy knows this because me and Jimmy are buddies. We talk about, brands and stuff all the time. And sometimes we bang our heads against the wall, and other times we're like, wow, interesting. But especially me, because I'm knocking down doors and I'm knocking on doors like all the time. So the more and more I'm knocking, the more I'm realizing that they're going to do some research. I mean, I got to be one of the people in the world that's probably spread the word to people that didn't know about gaming and esports and put it on their radar and got them educated, probably more than like most people in the world. I've had thousands of one-on-ones where I'm getting people familiar and really walking them through what this looks like, why it's important, why you need to get involved, where it's going. And it would be hard to say that somebody's had as many meetings as me to educate, non-endemic esports and gaming people to what's going on in this space. So I would say we're getting there. And the more people like me and the more cool things like 100 Thieves and Gucci, right? Or something like that happening, the more cool things like that happen will start making, it'll be a snowball effect. But now what's going to happen is now you got to start thinking about what does it look like more than just doing a cool drop and an activation. Like, how do
the
we
backpack was kind of lame, to be honest. I think you could have done a better job with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's subject to people's taste, right? And what they like. But
Clinton the Prophet Sparks, but with a PH, spreading the word, right? There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're a couple years away. And maybe, yeah, I think we're a couple. Once like big companies start buying and acquiring some of these organizations, and they become, I'll give you an example. I'm just going off the top of my head. The minute the Patriots like have their own team and start putting like gaming in the middle of halftime on primetime TV, like, and start doing things like that, where people are like, oh shit, this is crazy. This is what my son's doing upstairs in his room right now. And then brands see it, and then parents see it. And then the kids that were playing now end up starting to become executives. And then and that's what will happen over the next couple of years, where it now just becomes as normal as regular sports is. You know what I mean? Incorporated in all of the marketing, incorporated in everyday life, incorporated in school education, incorporated on television licensing rights, incorporated into the Olympics. It becomes that normal part of the fabric of life.
Last question for me, Clinton. It's about Xset before we, if you guys have any other questions or we move on to some news here. But I have this theory around esports teams, and I know Xset's more than just a team, but on one end of the spectrum, you have what I call like the hoodie orgs, right? The ones that are focused much more on lifestyle, on apparel, on merch, things like that. And on the other end, you have orgs that I think are very focused on winning, right? It's all about winning and tournaments and signing the very best players, et cetera. And sort of every esports org seems to fall somewhere on that spectrum.
Except Xset.
Well, so this is what I'm curious, right? How do you see Xset outside of that spectrum, on that spectrum? What's the differentiator here? Like, how do you think about it?
So with the things that I've been working on, we've all collectively been working on, we'll be creating a new spectrum that people will have to figure out how to keep up with and understand how to be a part of it. We've already had, truth be told, like behind the scenes, other orgs calling us, like, how are you doing these things and how are you moving so fast in under a year, right? And, it's like, you can't, I don't know, you can't install dope in somebody. You're just dope or you're not. You know what I mean? It's like, so you have, it's like you have like witticism, you have a sense of humor, or you don't. You know what I mean? Like you have a personality or you don't. You have vision or you don't. I can't tell you how to have vision. I can't tell you how to think 10 steps past everybody else. I can't tell you how to look from behind everybody, look down, look from the sides, and look from underneath when you're just busy looking straight at something. We are a tier 1 esports org. As you guys probably know, our Valorant team is dominating. Our Rocket League, we have the #1 Madden player in the world. We have, great Fortnite, Super Evan and Call of Duty. Like we're going after top-notch players in the space. So we're not one or the other, like you said. Some of the people that you say are like, say, a hoodie, like they're not as focused on making superstar athletes with their players, right? They have their esports team. It's cool. We can say, yay, we won this match. But like, I'm looking to create the world's greatest culture club with the nucleus of being gaming.
Interesting. And so like, is part of it is part of the formula then extending gamers beyond gaming, right? Is part of it just connecting it to all these other things? So you're not on just this spectrum of tournaments or merch? Or is it something more than that or different than that? Just trying to capture sort of what the differentiated thinking here, because I've been dying to sort of have a conversation around esports teams, and they all sort of are feeling the same to me these days, right? And I love that you're trying to do something different with it, Clinton. And I guess I'm trying to capture what, I know you can't say tell us everything, but
well, that's the problem. What you're asking me would be to reveal a genius way of thinking before it's been rolled out.
Fair.
Maybe I can soften Paul's question to something more generally applicable, which is, clearly you have such incredible pedigree in the music industry. What's one thing that gaming could take away from the music industry? Like, I think there's a lot that gaming can teach music, and I feel that very keenly as being a gamer. But like, I'm curious, like, what's one thing you wish the music industry would bring more into gaming? One thing they do super, super well that gaming does not.
I can point out more.
Is that a good question? I got silent.
No, because the reason why is because I hesitated is because I think if anything, they parallel the wrong things. And if also, if anything, the wrong things that's happening in music are the same wrong things that's happening in gaming, which is one of our missions.
Okay, let me flip it then. So what's the
I already flipped it. I was flipping it already.
Okay, all right. You flip it on me first.
All right, I'm a flipper. You're the professor, right? So what I was going to say is I've watched rappers come and go. I've watched athletes come and go. I've watched influencers, Viners. I've watched them all come and go. And the same thing that happens is they don't have the right leadership. They don't have the right guidance. They don't have the right tools. They don't have the right mental and physical well-being at hand. They don't have the financial literacy. They don't understand how to build a business, sustain a business, scalability, branding, marketing. They don't understand those things. So let's just take rapper A and gamer A, right? They do their work, they do it. And let's just say in this anomaly, both of these guys became very popular doing what they're doing, right? And they become dickheads, right? Because they're popular doing what they're doing. So they're feeling themselves and they're like not doing good business, not treating people well, kind of a jerk. And they end up losing and going away. And then the thing that I've seen happen a zillion times and no one thinks it'll ever happen to them is these worlds are small. So when you're difficult to deal with, when you're an asshole, when you treat people bad and you do bad business, you're going to burn out and no one's going to save you. And then when you try to go backwards and say, hey man, I'm sorry about before I was young and I didn't understand and it's like, well, bro, you already burnt these bridges. So I think, a lot of the problems of rappers that, I'll give you an example. You get a $500,000 advance and you spent it all on chains, watches, money phones, and Lambos, right? And then you're struggling trying to make another hit. You might last for another year. What happened to you year 2? Don't really hear much from you. You fade away. Now you're trying to charge for features online. Like, yo, I'm in the studio doing features, man, because you're trying to cling on, right? Because nobody was there to guide you and teach you. So that is one of the things that's most important to me for Xset is to be one of the orgs that focus on making sure that our talent has the support, has the guidance, has the leadership, whether it's financial literacy, whether it's mental or physical well-being, whether it's showing you how to build a business, whether it's showing you like, man, look, you're a brand and you have to conduct yourself as such, and you're a business. And these are the things that you need to do as a business, set up your LLC, understand taxes, all these types of things. So I think that's the biggest mistake and the problem. The same thing that's happening with gamers and content creators is the same thing, is parallel to what happens with rappers and DJs and producers in the music business, is the lack of leadership and guidance. And that's 100% something that's incredibly important to me. And again, we'll have a huge announcement that shows you that I put my money where my mouth is pretty soon with respects to that.
Very cool.
And by the way, I will say the announcement that's coming, that announcement will be here at my house Saturday, so we can structure that whole plan out of what that's going to look like.
Okay. Cryptic, but a fun tease. Guys, William, Jimmy, I don't know if you guys have any other questions, but we can jump into some news here.
Let's do some news. Yeah.
This
Wait,
article,
by the way, first, is it profit or are you a pro fit?
definitely profit at this stage in my life.
Okay, I didn't
talk to me 20 years ago, though, might have been
used
different.
to be both. Yeah.
Used to be both.
That could be your adult feature film name.
that ship has probably sailed as well, Clinton, to be very honest.
There's different categories. Dads, older brothers.
There's an audience for everybody.
The category is called the Wallaby.
It's a very specific category.
Every scene is you.
That's a good segue though, because let's talk about labels. This was an article from Adweek, and the headline here was "Gamer Label is Outdated," says Electronic Arts VP of Brand. So this is Elle McCarthy. In this interview, she talked about identity politics and gaming spaces and things like that. But fundamentally, the takeaway here was, she says, and I'll just quote directly, "With more brands trying to enter the gaming world and reach gamers, Elle McCarthy, the vice president of brand at EA, shares that the gamer label has become an outdated term. With fewer users identifying as gamers, brands should shift their targeting approach and focus more on how gaming serves as interactive." Clinton, let's start with you. I'm curious. Do you think the gamer label is outdated? It should go away? We should throw it out?
I don't know. Should we throw away the term athlete? I don't know. If you're a gamer and you game, then you're a gamer. Now, I get somebody that's been in an industry for a long time. For instance, like everybody hates the term influencer now, right? Because it's so been abused and everybody uses it. And I get it, because everybody that says they're an influencer is not an influencer. You know what I mean? Just because you're on social media and you bought a bunch of like fake followers, you're not really influencing anybody. To be an influencer, you must have influence. So if you're a gamer, you're a gamer. If you game, then you're a gamer. That's what you are. If you're on the football field, you're an athlete. I don't know how we change athlete to something like body mechanical rundown guy. Like, what do you call it to? You know what I mean? So what are you changing the gamer to? It's great I love when people want to innovate and push culture forward and innovate on names and stuff like that. But I also subscribe to the theory is, if you're going to say, let's not do this, then give us an option to do that's better. Right. So if you have another title that's better, or that you feel is, forward thinking or progressive for this space, because obviously if you're in the position you're in, you've been doing this for a long time. So you're probably tired of hearing the term gamer, and it's probably making you sick to your stomach every time you hear somebody misuse the term gamer. And that's probably where she's coming from. But gamers are gamers, just like an athlete is an athlete, a rapper is a rapper. You know what I mean? What are we going to change everyone's names?
Do you buy the premise here though? Does anyone buy the premise here? Because her premise here is that fewer users are identifying as gamers.
In her defense, and I've said this on the podcast previously, like, gaming is a form of media. So nobody goes around and says, I'm a book reader, right? Nobody goes around and says, I'm a movie watcher, right?
But you have foodies.
Yeah, but that's not a profession. One, it's not a profession, and it's not a giant culture with hundreds of millions of people that are adore it.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, hey, where's my fellow movie watchers?
Yeah.
Like, if there was a whole cult full of movie, then they would come up with some kind of title.
But it's tricky, because in the one hand, I have some sympathy here, which is like, I think gaming is just so ubiquitous. Like, everybody plays games today. right? Like, so to some extent, like this idea of
Yeah, but William, everybody shoots basketball. Everybody might, go play mini golf. They're not athletes. You know
yeah,
what I
or
mean?
yeah,
So when we
yeah,
say gamers, when we hear us four say gamers, we're talking about people that take it serious, whether they're professional esports players or they're people that are gaming regularly every day, competitively, or it's a part of their everyday life. I'm a gamer,
Mm.
right? So if I'm a DJ and maybe I'm not doing Madison Square Garden, but I'm like locally doing all these clubs and I'm in my bedroom DJing 6 hours a day, I'm going to not call myself a DJ now. I'm a DJ.
Her premise seems wrong, right? Like the whole idea of fewer users identifying as gamers. If anything, I feel like it's the opposite. Like when I was growing up,
weird, right?
when I was growing
weird.
up, I considered myself a gamer, but I never told girls I was a gamer, right? Like that's just not something you advertise.
But even if
if
you casually ride a skateboard or you ride in the Olympics, you're a skater.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how do you change that? Like,
But if anything,
I agree
there's
with
more
you, Paul.
pride. There's more pride around the label
I feel like
now.
we earn the title, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like a title in WoW or whatever. Like you earn this. I don't want to give this up. Like I'm displaying this proudly.
When your Microsoft Gamer score gets above 1,000 points.
I definitely think she's coming from. I don't know her, but obviously she's in a really important position. So I'm assuming that she's coming from an executive point of view where she's just like cringed out from the word gamer because everybody uses it incorrectly. And she probably deals with a lot of brands that just say, hey, we'd like to do some things with gamers. And she's just like, oh, I hate how they call everybody a gamer. So I'm pretty sure that's probably where she's coming from. But I haven't yet to hear, like I've heard influencers actually say, I hate the term influencer. I've never heard a gamer say, dude, I can't stand the term gamer.
Yeah. Playing all these games all day. I wish there was a better word for describing it.
No, but you're absolutely right, Clinton. Like I don't know any gamer that would be offended by that today, by that label. I feel if anything that it's moving towards a place of pride. I think that finally we can sort of call ourselves gamers. We're not seen as sort of the nerds in the basement anymore. That there's that it's relevant fundamentally.
Maybe she just threw that out there to start the conversation of moving it forward, right? Who knows?
I mean, is there a better solution in your mind?
No, it's the exact thing you should call it. Like the woman I came out of. The woman I came out of will always be called mom. You know what I mean? So I don't think mom's like sick of being called mom.
All right, guys, let's move on. Let's talk about XQC. XQC in the news, banned actually just today from Twitch, and this is from .esports. Potentially, they're saying for watching Olympic highlights. It's since been confirmed. That's why he got banned. He was live DMCA'd for watching Olympic highlights on his channel. The reason I put this story in here, Clinton, especially for you, is there's been so much fighting, so many arguments around music on Twitch and streamers getting banned and DMCA striked and the whole bit. When you see this, as a guy who came from the music industry, is there sympathy? Is there no sympathy? Is this the way the music industry, or in this case NBC, should be handling these cases? I guess I'm curious where you fall in terms of, you want to see harder sort of enforcement of these copyrights, or should it be more of a free for all?
Definitely not a free for all. I think there's two problems here. One, I think a lot of people don't know the rules, right? I think a lot of people are like, is this okay? Is this not okay? So my first question would be, he was watching highlights, is what you said, not watching the actual. He wasn't streaming the actual Olympics. It was highlights that lived where? On YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, so he's playing them from another platform that obviously is a place where you can play things. So I don't know if the act of then broadcasting it out on Twitch became the problem. And I think that's where it becomes a gray area for, a content creator or a streamer, is that they assume if it's on YouTube and we can all freely watch it, then it must be okay for us to watch it together on Twitch. And I think, who really sits there and reads, the terms of sort of like, who really reads all of that, right? And by the way, that's so complex that the average like 14, 15, 16-year-old isn't even going to understand the lingo of what it's like. you cannot broadcast show from the molecular, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it becomes like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory when the kid like breaks up in pieces and floats across the room and then becomes a whole thing again.
Yeah, xQc's not going to check with his lawyer
he's
in
not
midstream, right?
I honestly would assume playing something on YouTube is okay too. Like it's on a platform to play. And somebody's already paying for that to be there, or they're getting ads from it still. So I don't know. It's a gray area. I'm sure he wasn't aware that was a problem. But from the other side, we told you the rules, bro. Those are the rules. You should have read the rules. It's not our fault. Like a judge would say, stupidity is not an excuse, right? So, or ignorance. Sorry, I don't say stupidity. Ignorance is not an excuse. I'm sure our lawyer friend Jimmy would say the same thing. But I think what do you do? Is it a slap on the wrist? Is it a suspension for a week? Is it like, what do you do? Because some people, there's going to be a lot of people that get collateralized simply because of these gray areas that they don't know. And I guarantee he didn't know. He thought he was just having fun with his audience and just going through stuff and finding other ways to engage and get people excited to watch his stream. And that was a cool thing to do. I mean, I would have watched if he's sitting there talking about it and we're all engaging about super things and funny things and joking about stuff. And I wouldn't have sat there thinking like, dude, stop playing that from YouTube. You're going to get in trouble. Like, I wouldn't have thought that. You know what I mean?
It's also hyping up the Olympics too, right? Like, I don't know. You look at rappers that sometimes sample other artists, right? Clint, like relating stuff again in gaming and music, and they don't always get slapped. Sometimes they do when it's egregious, but they don't always get slapped with a lawsuit because they're hyping up that other song or that other content or that other brand.
Here's where the trick comes, and here's where like the music industry or entertainment industry, like, here, put this out, and then turn the other way and not watch you do it. So if you get in trouble, they can be like, I didn't know he was doing that, right? So it's like, even when I was coming up, labels would be like, here, put this song on your mixtape to promote our artist, but then turn the other way. And when we would get in trouble for mixtapes because it was technically illegal, they're like, oh, and by the way, it's the people above them. It's not even them. So I'll say in this situation, it might not even be somebody actively there pointing him out. There's algorithms listen, they have the licensing rights to show the Olympics and they pay a shit ton of money for that, right? So that's their IP and they own that. So everybody can't just have a free for all and take their stuff that they spent money on and just broadcast it and show for free. And then now they benefit, from their content. So I'm sure that it was just an algorithm that's seen it and then just reported it. And here's the other thing, most streamers don't understand the process of then going and getting something whitelisted or then going and getting it reversed, right? They'll just know, let me tell Twitch, like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? But they don't know the legal process to get it removed. For instance, if I played a song somewhere and it's not the label, it's not somebody actively there saying, oh, he played our song, let's take him down. It's a bot, right? That just sees the algorithm online and automatically flags it. For instance, I put a video on Instagram, automatically it'll be like, you can't put this on Instagram because it's owned by Universal Music Group, right? But I know who to reach out to and say, hey, I put this song that I produced, that I own the publishing on, but you own the mastering, and for some reason it locked me. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem, we'll sort it out. And then the next day it's sorted out. So it's probably what happened in this case right here. And I'm sure that if he just does a little bit of research, he'll realize that it won't be a long-term suspension at all. He can get it sorted out.
I mean, maybe, Clinton, this is a much deeper conversation, but my feeling, and look, I'm all for following copyright law. Like, I'm not suggesting, and as a guy who built, tech companies most of my career, I hated the idea of pirating software because I was always selling software, right? So it bugged me that people would try and pirate software. But fundamentally, it struck me that the music business, in the sort of draconian way they've gone after where their music can be played, that they've sort of hit on more lose-lose situations than win-win situations, right? Like by DMCA striking some Twitch streamer who's playing that song during their Warzone stream, right? They've lost the free publicity for the song, and the streamer has lost their stream because they got struck down, right? So it's kind of a lose-lose.
No, it's not really, because, and I think that's the problem, that a lot of people look at it from that point of view, right? If you sat there and you spent your whole life trying to build a career doing something, and it's your only way of making money. And then somebody comes and you build a fashion brand, and then somebody comes and bootlegs it and then builds the biggest store in the world and sells their bootleg version of your brand. Are you going to be like, dude, I could have got free promo and people would have known about me? No, you're going to be like, fuck, I'm losing all this money. And it's not even just the labels. You got to think about the producers, the writers, the artists. You're fucking all of them. Like you're literally stealing from them. They're hard earned. So if you really like that artist a lot, then buy their shit. Pay to stream for their shit, support their shit, buy their merch. The same way you're online trying to build up an audience. What are you building it for? So you can just give your shit away for free for the rest of your life? You're trying to build it so you can become a Twitch partner. Why? So you can make money. Why? So you can make ad revenue. Why? So you can get subs. Why? So you can sell merch. Why? So you can build an audience and sell them shit. Right? And that's what these people have done. So the same way you want to build a brand and be able to make a living off it and make money off it, so do all these people. So whether it's NBC or it's Nike or whatever big brand that you think they can afford it, why are they taking it off me, or why are they brand? Well, guess what? Maybe fucking one day you'll be NBC, but you'll never get there if everybody's taking your shit. You know what I mean? So I hate when people get mad at brands or labels or companies because they're just doing their job, protecting their IP that they spent millions and millions of dollars in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years building for some punk in their bedroom to just say, yo, I want to use your shit for free and you're an asshole for not letting me use it for free. Really, you're the asshole for thinking I should give it to you for free. Why should I give it to you for free? Do you feel what I'm saying?
100%. But I think what I'm getting at is it's like, I was running a venture fund 15 years ago, and I was seeing guys coming in with technology saying, we're going to solve the issue of music piracy, right? We're going to make sure everyone gets paid fairly if they use the music. And 15 years has gone by and no one has solved this problem. And I feel like gaming and streaming has made the problem worse, right? It's a bigger problem.
I'll tell you why. So let's just use these examples. Universal and Twitch, right? So Twitch has over 145 million users, right? Primarily gamers, right? They all want to listen to music. They all love music, right? But Universal's not going to do a deal with 145 million users, right? So they got to do it with the platform. So now you have to do it with that platform to do a blanket licensing deal for everybody to be able to use this. In order to do that, you got to meet margins. What do you got to meet margins for? To pay all of the writers and artists and producers and publishers and everybody that's a part of that song, right? So that's a lot of money. So maybe Twitch has to pay this much and they don't want to because now they look at their numbers and we're going to take a huge loss. Or Universal's like, they're not going to give us enough money. We're going to get flack from all these coalitions and unions that are pushing on us to get our writers and producers more money. So like there's a lot of that going on. Like, look, it's not because no artist and no label is like, fuck a streamer, fuck a gamer. We don't want them using our music. Pay us. Of course they want you to use it. Of course they want the promotion of using it. And of course they celebrate the fact that you appreciate, their music and their artists. They want to be in bed with everybody and they want it, but they also don't want to just work their ass off and spend all their money and just give it away for free.
So this is the conclusion I love that you got to, because then to me, if we take that one logical step further, that means someone's business is unsustainable, right? It's either Twitch or it's the music companies, but someone has a business that the economics just don't work, right? If Twitch can't afford to pay these blanket licensing fees, well, are they charging too little for advertising? Are they not monetizing the platform effectively enough, right? Like someone's business is not meeting the requirements for those two partners to be able to play together.
Well, I think this is why the independent and unsigned artist business is a $2 billion plus business right now, because there's never been a bigger or better time to build a business with your music. I mean, I got a buddy of mine, Steven Spence. He's an influencer. He created this thing called the Breakfast Challenge, right? And it's got 6 billion impressions on TikTok, 6 billion, right? Why he was smart? Because he made a song that had the word challenge in the song. And he made a dance with it. Then he registered the song with a pro, right? So then he got it distributed through TuneCore. So now guess what happens? Every time that somebody does that video or uses that song, he gets $7,500 per 2 million impressions. He's got 6 billion. Do the math. right? So it's the reason why I wrote a book like this again, guys, because you can take control and you can build the business of your own instead of worrying about other people not helping you or giving you their stuff for free or complaining because these people are getting mad. Build your own business. I'll even tell a gamer right now, have your boys make music. Find people locally or find people on SoundCloud, collaborate with them, be like, yo, send me like 20 songs. You guys are dope. I'm going to play you guys on my stream. People are going to get familiar with you. You promote me to your audience, blah, blah. Start building your own empire. Start building your own network. Matter of fact, if you got a lot of followers, here's what you do. Go on SoundCloud, find a bunch of rappers, be like, yo, give me 10% of your publishing. I'm going to use your music on my streaming. Now you're building a publishing catalog. Guess what? 2 years later, maybe 3 of those 655 rappers you talk to all have Billboard hits, and now you own a piece of their song. Now you're building a giant fucking business that's scalable. People aren't thinking like that. They're sitting there thinking like, why can't you just let me do things for free? Why don't these guys do this for me? How come I can't do that? Well, you can't. So guess what you can do? Figure out a way to build your own business around it. And you know, it's every business is the same way, right? And most people don't. How many times have you heard somebody or yourself say, that'd be cool if they did this? You know, it'd be awesome if somebody invented this. Fucking do it. If it's awesome, then you do it. You know what I mean? Like, why are you sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something dope? You be the dope one.
Best
guys.
advice ever on the podcast, Clinton. And what a good way to wrap things up. Thank you.
Sorry
for
if
everything.
I swear too much, man.
No.
It's super. By the way, when I get passionate like this, because I want everybody to win, you know, and I'm just trying to give people ideas, and I'm just trying to make them think outside of their comfort zone and see ways that they can build their own business and not sit around and be victim to somebody else that's deciding their fate. You can decide your own destiny, man. You're in control. Didn't you get a PC? Didn't you light up your own Twitch account? Didn't you buy your own mic and your own thing? You started building a business. Why are you stopping? Keep going.
And Clinton, I know you put out a ton of content. So where can people follow you to find all this stuff?
All my socials are at Clinton Sparks, as you can see right there, at Clinton Sparks. And then my Twitch is twitch.tv/Clinton Sparks. And my national hip hop radio station that plays all the hottest new hip hop 24/7, commercial free on the free Dash app. I have a channel on there. So if you know Sirius XM, it's like Eminem has Shade 45. Clinton Sparks has Get Familiar Radio on Dash. You can download that app for free. And if you're a unsigned artist or independent artist, you're trying to get your music played in rotation next to the Baby and Drake and Migos and all those guys, getfamiliarradio.com. If you want to get my book or my course, winbiginmusic.com, winbiginmusic.com. Get familiar. And don't forget to follow at Xset, rep the set, get familiar.
I love it. I love it. Like a real pro. Clinton, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for all your insight, your stories. William, Jimmy, thank you guys as always. For everyone who's listening, thank you guys. Just a quick reminder, every Wednesday evening, we do a live stream at 8:30 Eastern time. It's a lot like the podcast, except we cover all the news stories that didn't make it into the podcast, and we get to do it live with you guys. It's a lot of fun. And make sure to follow us everywhere, guys. It's all at Busy Sports on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. It's all at Busy Sports. And as always, guys, there you go. Get familiar. I love it. And we will see you guys next week.
Get familiar.